Hi, I'm Avery Powell, online news editor for Fourth Estate, and here with me today we have Laura Freeman and Taylor Sprague, candidates for president and vice president of the student body. Thanks for joining me today, guys.
Thanks for having us.
So tell me a little bit about your platform and how your experience as students helped you form it.
Okay, so people on campus might see three letters, and this is ACT. Accessibility, community, and transparency. Taylor and I, through our experiences here at Mason, definitely want to see direct action to, creating more transparency between what happens within student government, and also allow students to realize that they have a lot of access to resources and that there are ways to not only get involved on campus but make their experience here at Mason have a lot of value to it through action. So getting involved, going around and meeting other students on campus, creating that community of diversity, really diving into it and seeing that, yeah, we are a diverse campus, but we have to communicate with each other. We have to know how to communicate with each other. There's so many cultures here that are represented at Mason. So yeah, ACT is something that we really want to push, and it actually comes with a lot of believing that we can have action and that we can make a difference. So
okay, and one of your campaign points is the more improved academic advising system.
Yeah.
So what do you see as the flaws being with the current academic advising system?
Right.
So when we were discussing what accessibility looks like, we were thinking about the resources that are available to students and how students succeed during their time at Mason. And one thing I reflected on was my academic advising experience and how I felt in conversations with other students how different these experiences were, and how across different schools and majors and colleges you receive a different experience, and it's either a great experience, a very bad experience, or somewhere in the middle. And academic advising is so important, especially for we have a lot of different students that come from different places. So I might come from a family who has siblings and people who can kind of guide me through this experience, but there are first-generation college students who don't really have that experience or have that guidance beyond the academic advisors that they have on campus and the mentors that they have. And so we think it's really crucial that academic advising across schools and colleges is generalized so that they have specific steps of what they need to go through in order to create that experience. And so that would look like freshman year, sophomore year, junior year, senior year. You have a different outline of what you're going to go through and how you're going to form your experience, and that starts with why are you here and why are you doing what you're into. Sophomore year, you're still enjoying it. Junior year, okay, now you're getting ready for your career. How do you want to specify your experience? And then senior year, how do you want to finish it off? And so we just want to see some kind of outline, some kind of platform that directs advisors through this, so that they can give their students the best experience that they can have and provide those resources for their students.
Okay. All right, and so another kind of concrete goal you all have set is to create an off-campus study space, or just space in general for our off-campus students. How is that going to differ from what the Ridge used to be, or is it going to differ? What's kind of the look for that? Yeah.
So a lot of the conversations that I had as Undersecretary of Housing and Student Government was with administration in the Ridge and people who sit on the, people from student centers and people who sit on the triple SAC board, which talks about space allocation. And there was really a lot of conversation about the Ridge being for housing students, but really being used a lot by off-campus students. And so there's a lot of discrepancy between, not necessarily who can use that space because it is an open space, but who takes ownership of that space. And one thing it is a space that's owned by housing and in a housing area. And so one thing we were discussing was when we talk about, again, I guess, the integration of communities, the third floor of the JC is a place where a lot of off-campus students hang out. And conversations that I have personally had with students who are up there, they say that one of the things that drives them there is that quiet meditation space, as well as just the community that's there. And so, one thing that we would have to figure out in our role is where that space would be and have a lot of conversations across communities and with advisors about what that space would look like. But we think, having features like just, a microwave and a Keurig, places that make it easy to be on campus all day, and give students that space to be in an off-campus setting. And we know, the off-campus office does a really great job of creating those spaces, and we just want to work more with them to have a specific location that provides all of the things that those students request and would like to have during their time on campus.
Okay. And so now I'm sure, as you're both aware, student government recently removed their undersecretary for dining for tweets he posted that were deemed offensive by student government. Did that change your perspective of how you think student government should operate?
It didn't necessarily, it changed how I felt they should operate as far as when you notice that an issue has come up, not waiting until it gets out of hand to control it. So just being a part of, you know, what I consider like Black Mason within that community. There was also things that, you know, the students said towards specific communities outside of just undocumented students here at Mason. And so it's one of those things where you wish that things were handled faster, but I definitely think that the president did a great job of taking action and addressing the situation, giving the student choices of what should happen next, but also just taking control of his position and saying, I noticed the problem and this is what I have to do. And so I feel like student government did what they needed to do and they handled it very well. And so I definitely do think that they could have handled it differently as far as acting faster, but I think that at this point it was something that they felt that this needed to happen, and they did a great job. So.
Okay, and all right, and so your final point is on transparency between administrators and students. So what does transparency look like to you?
Right, so it's transparency between administrators and students, but it's also really transparency between student government and students. So I'll start with the student government aspect, and we really want to see, like, student government does a great job of doing What Do You Want Wednesdays. They hold office hours. Their meetings are actually available to the public on Thursdays. But sometimes, you know, what we feel is enough is not always enough. So we want to definitely reach out to the community more. So we have these office hours that you can go to, but during those office hours, we'd like to see some of the senators, some of the e-board members going out, maybe into the JC, and actually going to individuals and getting to know them personally, actually asking questions and maybe doing more surveys and getting that approved by the universities to go around and do surveys like what is working, what is not working. So not just staying within a student involvement office, but going out into the community more than just like on a Wednesday. And as far as like with administration, we have great relationships with some of the administrators. Rose Pasquarel is an amazing person. She's definitely reached out with building that bridge between N2 and domestic students. She's one of those administrators who will definitely fight for students, and we want to show that to the whole student body, that they're not just out there making decisions for us, but that they really do want to hear from us. So if that's having more panels or having more town hall meetings with our administrators, having more advisory committees that can answer questions and help give advice to, okay, well, this is directly affecting me. We want to hear from the students that it's directly affecting. Provost Stearns used to have an advisory council for students to sit on and voice action plans, ideas of how to improve the life of a Mason student academically and just with school spirit and everything. And so bringing stuff like that back, where students who aren't traditionally involved in like student government, lead office, Patriot Activities Council, who aren't traditionally like the student leader or positional student leader, can come out and still have great things to add to things that are starting here at Mason. And really feel like they're making a difference and that these things aren't just being decided for them. So that's how we definitely want to make things more transparent and just allowing students to know what is going on before we find out it's happening.
Yeah. So do you think there's been a flaw in transparency between either student government and students or administrators and students?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think what we see is really just a lot of confusion, and so I think that the student leader population is very heavy, very strong at Mason, and full of great individuals who are really, really invested in our campus. And what we want to see is students who aren't in those student leader positions getting that same information. And right now, we do believe that there's a flaw in the way that that's being addressed, because, you know, if you go into a class on the average day, tends to be filled with 90% of those non-positional student leaders that you may not interact with on a daily basis through interactions in the lead office and student government. And so when I talk to those students about the things that I'm involved in, that I know about, so many of them are like, what are you talking about? You know, I don't care. What is this? And some do care, and some are like, oh, that's cool. I didn't know about this, you know, thing that was happening or this event that was happening. And so we think there needs to be a more concentrated effort in how we address those students and how we invite those students to the conversation. And that's a really hard thing to do because that population is so large. We have a lot of graduate students, we have a lot of older students, we have a lot of veteran students. And so how do we really concentrate our efforts, not just for those, first year, right out of high school students that are coming in and really excited for college, but students who are coming back to create that concerted effort in their education to ensure that the money and the time that they're putting into their education is really fulfilled and really provided for them. And so we would like to work more with administrators to find out where that money is going and how it's being allocated so that students know that their resources are going to something that's really bettering their education. And so that's the kind of transparency we want to see to engage those students that are very much a part of our Mason family and our Mason community, and how we make sure that they know that and they feel that, as well as that all of our student leaders who are in these student positions are reaching out to those students. And like Laura said, using Mason student government resources such as office hours and meetings to be able to do things like that.
All right. And so do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, just we believe in our vision, but we want to definitely have the student body believe in what we're doing. But one way we want to do that is by asking the question, like, the fact that a lot of student government members think that, we need to mirror what's going on in DC. And the issue with that is that we're trying to mirror something that's not necessarily working. So Taylor and I definitely want to mirror what's happening here on campus. The Mason students that we have here, the diversity that we do have here, the Mason culture. We want to build that Mason culture. When we go to other schools and other campuses, you see green, you see their school colors everywhere. There's so much pride in where they're going, and we want to bring that same thing here. And we recognize that Mason is still a new school. We have a lot of things that can happen for us, but it's going to take a belief in the fact that we can do this, but we can't just do it, just her and I. It's going to take the whole entire Mason community. And that see and act is so strong for me personally because I feel like I've built friendships and long-lasting relationships here at Mason, but just to have them for 4 years and not use them ever again, that's a waste. So actually tapping in and networking and using those networks to achieve goals and become more successful as the student body, that'd be amazing. And like Taylor was mentioned, we have a lot of non-traditional college students here as far as, we have parents are coming back. I know my mom has a dream to come back to college and get her education, so applauding students like that, applauding our veterans, and applauding just people who are here to get an education and to really become more successful. We need to applaud those things. And there's a lot of things that are working here at Mason, so we want to make sure that we continue to see those things grow and get better, but also fix some of the things that students feel aren't working and Taylor and I also feel aren't working. So, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you both for joining me today.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thanks for having us.
So for the state, we'll be interviewing all 4 pairs of candidates for student body president and vice president, and you can check that out on our Facebook page or at gmu4thestate.com. I'm Avery Powell. Thanks for joining us.